let's say, the drivers again, and we speak about the subscription, not just that the subscription is based on Netflix or let's say some other online subscription with an online product. Even if you look at Amazon right now, you are subscribed for all of those commodities that you require every month in your house, related to groceries or any other thing, the regular mundane commodities. Instead of going out, these platforms are offering you features that you just select a subscription list, and every 30 days or 40 days on a cycle, these products will be delivered to you without even you going to the app anymore. So you see, a lot of operations have increased, a lot of digital transformation have increased. It's the same players who have been offering these products online. However, they had to multiply the back-end operations. They had to multiply the workforce in order to cater to this surge of demand that this pandemic had created. Okay. Now coming to the other areas of drivers, we see an adaptation of omnichannel. Companies with strong omnichannel, we see them that they retain 89 or 90% of their customers than the companies which have weak omnichannel strategy. Okay. Similarly, with a stronger omnichannel customer engagement, companies have seen almost 10% rise in annual revenue, compared to 3.4. These are from analytics, by the way, compared to 3.4 for companies with weak omnichannels, so on and so forth. Online to offline allows business strategy to draw potential customers from online. This is again another strategy, another driver. Sometimes organizations that are not fully digital, they go halfway through. They allow customers to basically select the products online, but still have to visit the branch or visit the particular shop to collect their merchandise. Again, it's a way to do the digital retailing. And then last but not least, as we speak about, is the Internet of Things. Okay. Sales, the FMCG sales have seen a major upshift in the recent years. A lot of those top-notch operators continue to treat IoT devices and networks as a platform to boost their sales. Even like I told you before, like the groceries on Amazon, right? Now you have those appliances in your kitchen and in your living room, which basically are connected to the internet, and in the back end, they're basically ordering things whenever that particular merchandise finishes or it's close to its consumption. So as I said, these are those different drivers. Okay. There's one thing in common amongst all of these drivers, and that is something that we will speak about now. And in essence, all of these top industry drivers that we just spoke about takes us to the source element, okay, of how these drivers are made relevant. On what type of entity within a particular industry, retail being our industry right now for the conversation, those drivers rely upon in order to generate the correct and relevant results. And I think we all understand that that particular entity is the data, all the way from being as crude and segregated as it can to being as processed and refined in order for an organization to have data play its essential role to be utilized in order to run their business, to produce the right outcomes, to generate expected revenue, and of course, to drive the customer satisfaction. Now, coming back to the different elements of a retail industry, we speak about, let's say, the business and the IT services that a retail organization would be required or would have to offer to its customer, both internal and external. So when I say external, those are those products, those are those marketing campaigns, the promotions and different aspects that are directly related to the customer, running surveys after they go through your website or they visit your shop. They receive an SMS or a WhatsApp message or an email asking the customer to rate their experience. And then all of those entities and all of those services which basically allow an organization to do this. And those are related to supply chain and fulfillment, having sure the right inventory management is done, in order to make sure that your stores are optimally, let's say, sourced with the product that is supposed to be sold. Okay, making sure in-store promotions, marketing campaigns, and marketing team are receiving the right data based on the ongoing transactions, based on the ongoing operations within different stores of your organization, and receiving the right data at the right time in order for these decision makers, whether they're running promotions or campaigns in the future, these decision makers flourishing them with the right reports so that it can help them within the right time in order to cater to those marketing campaigns. Because again, as we spoke about right in the beginning, products and services are being offered heavily by multiple different vendors, right? It's primarily the customer experience, primarily the customer satisfaction that keeps a customer from going from one vendor, one supplier to another. Okay, so if I'm today on a e-commerce website and it's offering me a product which might be of the same price on another e-commerce, but I know for a fact that if in case this product has a failure, if in case I don't like this product after I order it, after I receive it, merchandiser A is much better to communicate, much better to talk to, much better customer experience as merchandiser B. So again, crunching this experience, crunching the data that is produced by this experience it really matters a lot these days for any organization that is in the retail. Now, once we spoke about the business and IT services, of course, these are relative to the industry we are speaking about. But then if we look at the background, we still come back to the same, area, which is orchestration of the operations that are being driven by different pieces of technologies in that organization on which these different business and IT services are being hosted on. Okay, so for example, a retail organization would definitely have a ERP. A retail organization would definitely have an inventory management system. They would definitely have a POS system. Of course, again, POS systems, ERPs are not just from one vendor, there are many. Okay. However, the core operations, the way the operations are handled in the back end in order for these services to be produced or offered to the customer still remains the same. And you require people and you require orchestration of these operations within these technology stacks to be able to comply with the agreed service level agreements, right? To be able to produce the right results, to be able to crunch the data, to be able to produce the right reports, to be able to make sure that your stores the next day open with the right merchandise, with the right inventory, with the right pricing list, so on and so forth. So now we'll go through a couple of, let's say, the most important, I would say, operations. And number one being, the most crucial operation surrounding retail industry is primarily in a lot of places, in a lot of organizations, is still the overnight batch-oriented execution of various processes that are primarily responsible for not only accumulating and segregating data, which is coming from the day of their operation, the previous day from the stores, but also to make sure that data is transferred to the right application with the right dependency management in order for corresponding processes which are hosted on those technologies that we were speaking about under those applications at the right time. Generally, this whole processing in a simpler word is called end-of-day processing. As simple as the name sounds, it is not really simple, and it entails a lot of complex orchestration of many processes. As an example, to feed the sales audit system with the raw data from the POS systems on nightly basis, whether it's nightly or, it depends on the organization. Some organizations are working on, let's say, half online, half offline. Some organizations are near real time, but still, the data propagation and the consumption of data remains the same for any organization, regardless of the method they're utilizing that data, or let's say publicizing that data. So as I said, it entails a lot of complex orchestration, feeding the sales audit system with raw data from the POS systems in order for the sales audit system to process these figures based on the set mechanism, or let's say the set mechanism from the business line, from the functional people, to generate the right result, which is then ingested into other modules in the retail application. Okay, it could be the retail application. You could have another business intelligence application out of your retail application, and not only ingesting it there, but also ingesting it to the general ledger, which is commonly known as the GL. This mechanism primarily is solely responsible for the most granular accounting of the organization, right? And after this is done, the activity is followed by making sure the reporting operations are executed on time, because they need to execute on time on the correct data, which basically is depending to produce not just meaningful reports for the marketing team, as I explained before, but also help them in their campaign and provide them updates on how they should do their business. This is one aspect, which is basically driving the business. But the other aspect is the same operations, which are crucial for running this end of day, also generate output, updates, or downloads, which are then being propagated, transferred to the corresponding POS systems in order to have seamless and error-free opening of the next day operations. So in essence, when we speak about orchestration, okay, this is where software like Control M, or let's say Control M, comes into the play, because the requirement of these operations is basically to give any organization real-time and on-demand, for example, point of sale order reporting to the central application. Ensure accurate replenishment of the inventory of the merchandise of stores within time, okay? And seamless, let's say, pricing updates, okay? You don't need to wait for an overnight, or let's say multiple hops between different departments to update the pricing on the tills, the software on the POS that is running in your stores, okay? Not just that, and also allowing you to have visibility on all of these operations in a very granular motion, in a very granular way, and having the ability to pinpoint the error at the right time in order to reduce that overhead, reduce that mean time to repair. Going forward, another aspect, or let's say another important aspect in a retail organization, is inventory management. And again, as I mentioned before, inventory management is primarily a business application or a business function. However, it is again hosted on technology. Okay, it will again have multiple different steps, technological steps, that are supposed to be executed with the right dependency, on the right time, on the right data. Okay, now data transfer, again, we go back to the basics. It all revolves around data being produced correctly, data being transferred correctly, and at the end, data being consumed correctly. So if you have any discrepancy between any of these operations relating to multiple, let's say, retail applications that you have within your organization, it can very well be a disaster. It can very well produce wrong results. Wrong results going to marketing will produce wrong planning. Wrong results going to the inventory system will produce wrong replenishment. Wrong replenishment at the end will produce lesser merchandise in your stores, or more merchandise in your stores, which is above the storing capacity, hence affecting the customer behavior, hence affecting the consumer satisfaction. So again, as we explained, over here you might see SAP, but it is not, let's say, 100%, because any organization can have any kind of ERP. They could have SAP, they could have Oracle, or they could have, let's say, in-house built, developed ERP. So Control M, as many of you already might know, Control M has the capacity to not just speak to environments which have SAP, speak to environments which have Oracle-based ERPs or Oracle applications for retail, for example, but also to any technology through command line, through API, through a web service, so on and so forth. No. So the idea is at the end to sit on top of these technology stacks and orchestrate the operations in the back end. We already spoke about the value that it brings because at the end of the day, you basically want a single pane of glass that would offer you all of the monitoring aspects, offer you all of the administration aspects, the management aspects, and not only the management, but the alerting aspects of those operations, those critical operations, which basically run your business. So if you look at this in the example of inventory management orchestration, it primarily revolves around the end-to-end process, all the way from incoming and outgoing goods, the merchandise, having the data loading, data of orders, whether it's incoming, outgoing orders or incoming merchandise, load them into the system, into your ERP by running different steps. Okay, those could be SAP process change and Oracle retail related operations, or even in-house built operations. Again, operation is technical, so these could be those operations that require to be executed. Once they are done correctly, they're supposed to process the incoming goods, process the outgoing goods. Once everything is done, you're supposed to generate the reports. And in the back end, you see that these reports, in the middle part is the heart of your retail application, right? And that is where the orders are being taken care of by different concurrent programs, or database procedures, or SAP-related R3 or process change jobs. However, the result is going to your business lines. The CFO is relying on the report which is generated by this middle process through churning of the data to running the concurrent program on the rightly received data from the previous step. And then not just giving the financial statements to your CFO, your sales and marketing personas also require these reports for forecasting and strategic planning. Last but not least, in order to keep your business running, the warehouse management system also gets updated because where do you store this merchandise? It's primarily in the warehouse, right? So if you see, it basically revolves around three major aspects of any retail organization: the transactional and financial aspect of selling and buying the product, the marketing of forecasting and strategic planning, and all the way to warehouse management, which basically requires the right results in order to understand how much merchandise needs to be stored, how much merchandise needs to be bought, how much merchandise has gone out of the store. Third one that we speak about is a conjunction of all of this. It touches every single application within the retail landscape, and that's for pricing ecosystem. Now, again, this is an example of without an orchestration, how the operations would look like, okay? Because the idea again goes back to the same statement that whether it's a retail organization or a financial institute or any establishment, if there is an application which has no dependency, which has no connectivity, or let's say no relativity with any other application in that organization, there is a very high chance that application is not producing or not being required by that application, by that organization. Because nowadays, if you see each and every application that you may have in an organization, one way or another, in any shape or form, it has dependency on the other applications. So when we speak about, let's say, the pricing system requires updates from a certain other application. The pricing system requires data and, let's say, reporting factor, which updates or which tells how the pricing needs to be happening, okay? Pricing system is connected to the merchandise system. Pricing system is connected, let's say, to the data warehouse as well. So it's all interconnected. However, to produce the right results, again, the same story that you have to generate, you have to operate and process these operations in these three different areas, all the way from your enterprise resource planning to making sure the data and reporting is generated correctly, to making sure your pricing module, or let's say the pricing system, is updated correctly in order to produce the right results, to produce the right price for the right merchandise for each different store. Maybe you are multi-country, what do you call, retail organization. You're spread across the globe. So the pricing based on taxation, based on the market, may be different than what you are offering that particular product in country A, then you're offering it in country B. So all of that, again, requires the data to be transferred correctly, data to be consumed correctly. And again, it is all dependent on the operations that are being orchestrated. So if you see on the right side, it becomes very streamlined, okay, because you define all of those underlying processes. You define all of the operations that are required to update the pricing ecosystem, okay? And I don't need to explain this. I'm sure everyone knows about it, that once you have a streamlined operations, such as on the right side, of course, automatically you have more visibility. Automatically you require lesser subject matter experts to basically involve in, let's say, laborious and repetitive tasks, and they could be utilized more for more intelligent work, for more planning, forecasting, strategic work, so on and so forth. So 5 indicators, right, that basically tell, or let's say identify, whether orchestration is required in an organization which is primarily of retail. Okay, growth in probability, right? Profitability, growth in margin, increased customer service. How would you attain that? You would basically attain the customer service, highest customer service, when you're basically churning your data on time with the right dependencies. When you're primarily looking at your processes, when you're primarily handling your processes in the utmost urgency, okay, your mean time to repair is lesser than normal. You have an orchestration layer which basically runs on, let's say, a piece of artificial intelligence, knowing what has happened to a particular operation in the past, and then auto remediating the most common errors rather than relying on subject matter experts to come in and have the whole process chain stuck somewhere and then making or let's say consuming more time to repair. Okay, and then comes not another result that basically indicates is the cost reduction. The cost reduction on your operations, cost reduction on the type of errors, on the type of monitoring efforts that you would require these retail operations to be executed in time. You also not just reduction on that cost, but it also increases, or let's say you would like to accelerate your business process. So this directly correlates to in my opinion, I've seen it many a times, this directly correlates to marketing, because a lot of times the marketing campaigns depend on the right data from the current consumption, or let's say the current sales pattern of your shops, right? Because marketing campaigns are primarily related to the experience that your current business is doing. If your business is not doing enough, if the merchandise is not being sold off the shelf as expected, then the marketing campaign needs to come up with a different kind of approach which attracts the customer experience, right? And when they want this to be rolled out, they would like the corresponding technology to have the ability to accelerate these business processes, because they are dependent. So if you're still, let's say, executing, orchestrating via different let's say in-app schedulers or people or in-house scripting for each technology which differs from another technology, and your marketing campaign needs to run, it is still dependent on this technology that you have in place, and it can very well slow down that campaign. So once you have an orchestrator which talks to any kind of technology, to all the marketing applications that you have, rolling out new campaigns is much easier, because the system that you have, Control M would adapt, Control M would scale, Control M would take care of the load that it has been given. If it's unable to do that, of course, you will know it proactively rather than reactive. So there are many things, many indicators that are being fulfilled by Control M in order to tell you that, these are those areas that orchestration of all of these marketing processes by Control M will improve. Let's say your business process will improve not just the business aspect, but improve the growth that you may have on your infrastructure. You might not require a lot of those extra pieces on the infrastructure, such as more memory, more CPU, multiple VMs, if you're able to orchestrate your workload of retail operations properly. Okay. Sometimes, a lot of times, I've seen it personally. Many of us have seen it, that when we look at the time it takes for a process to execute, or let's say a batch or a set of processes to execute, the very first thing the infrastructure mindset comes is increase the memory, give it another CPU, increase the machines. But a lot of times what we have seen is that's not the case. The case is the orchestration of these executions are not correctly done. And that's where Control M comes and plays the role of orchestrating these operations in the right manner to produce the results against the SLAs that are set over there. Okay. Last but not least, of course, traditional approaches to batch processing. Instead of being siloed approach, which I explained earlier, having to wait results from application A to be dropped in a certain place for application B to consume, relying on time-based schedules, relying on time-based events, for example, relying on people and processes to send an email with an attachment of data. It's better to have the orchestration layer in order to reduce this gap. Not just reduce, at times you can completely eliminate. Okay. And sometimes people do ask this question, that how is it possible that if I have ERP from SAP and then I have, let's say, warehouse management system running on an AS400 where SAP is not present, how would I update the SAP area of my ERP with the results from AS400? Because AS400 is a different technology altogether. It has its own language. SAP would not be able to understand it. AS400 would not be able to understand SAP. However, for the business, the processes that are running between these two are very much interconnected. The supply chain process within the SAP ERP, or Oracle for that matter, is waiting for data coming from the warehouse management system, the WMS, they call it, and that data has been produced every 10 minutes. And there is a file transfer, which is blindly just sending this data to X place somewhere, where the process chain in SAP or the concurrent programs of Oracle are supposed to execute blindly again, expecting the data to be there. So a lot of times that gap produces wrong data. That gap produces bad results, which predominantly produces errors and produces the marketing team, the business line to have a gap, to have sometimes even a disaster. So that's where Control M comes, because it's agnostic, right? As you all know probably already. It's agnostic. It sits on top of any technology that is out there, any infrastructure that is out there, and we'll speak about that in a moment. So at the end, the core of our conversation relies on this one statement, which is production at scale challenge, right? Again, as I said, you may have top-notch applications related to retail. You may be orchestrating them by their own, let's say, in-application schedulers, by in-house based multiple scripting mechanisms, cron tabs, Windows schedulers. However, when the scaling challenge comes, you always have a chance to hit the wall, because these different inbuilt schedulers or Windows schedulers or cron schedulers, they do their job to a bit, but they don't go beyond it. They don't give you, let's say, meaningful measurements of success. They don't give you meaningful forecasting capabilities that is required in this age and time. You require, ingestion of data to be coming from let's say, multiple different sources and then ingesting that data into multiple different targets. And then you have the data lake coming into the picture. You have your data scientists requiring that data to be on the dot every single minute, every 5 minutes, refresh, so on and so forth. So the idea is to deliver insights on the right data at the right time. And not only the data part, not only the application part, the second part, as I explained, is based on the, what do you call, infrastructure. Now, when we spoke about the infrastructure a moment back, I was talking about on-prem. But then what we're seeing, there's a big shift on the infrastructure side as well, is basically not only just to have virtual machines on Azure or AWS, but Azure and AWS and any other cloud provider or any other data pipeline provider or data churning application, everyone is going towards a SaaS model. Everyone is trying to offer their services based on the time that you would like to consume. That you don't want a VM. Your operations require 1 hour in 24 hours. Why should you have a machine on your prem for 24 hours and pay for carbon footprint and so on and so forth? So it's that basic understanding is being propagated to the application landscape as well. A lot of those data churning applications, data churning services are being offered by Google Cloud, by Amazon for organizations to transfer the data to their environment in the cloud, have it churned, have it processed, have it manipulated, and then transfer back. Okay. So again, for us in Control M, we do not care. Okay, because the capacity and the capability, along with the innovation that Control M has, it allows you, whichever type of infrastructure you have, whether you have on-prem infrastructure from the mainframes to a distributed environment on Linux or Windows, all the way to the cloud. Okay, whether it's what do you call on AWS, Google Cloud provider, or any other cloud that is out there, or even nowadays, not nowadays, but recently, a lot of organizations are going towards the containerizations as well, the Kubernetes and the Dockers of the world. So again, we have that capability. Okay, a lot of times I do end up speaking to customers, speaking to prospects. They do think in the beginning that Control M is just a scheduler, but it's not the case, because it was a scheduler back in the days when the only thing required from it was to run a task at a particular time after a dependency. However, that space has evolved, not just for the Control M perspective, but also the technologies that Control M has to engage with. Now there are containers, there are virtual machines, there are cloud services for data churning, ERPs have evolved. However, one thing still remains the same, and that is the orchestration of the operations. Maybe it's not as, schedule-based anymore as it was before, but it is still event-based. Still, you require back-end operations to be executed correctly on these different applications hosted on multiple infrastructures on the right time to produce the right result. So that's where Control M comes, being the abstract the ultimate orchestration layer for any organization, the abstraction layer to simplify complex application processes, give you orchestration on the data pipeline, population on the data lakes, with the right, dependency check, error checking, forecasting capabilities, so on and so forth. I'm not sure how many of you had attended the previous sessions, but also just to give you a high level, we can go in details if you would like. We can have one-on-one sessions as well. After this session, we can schedule something. So all of those requirements within a workload automation or orchestration platform that may require, for example, onboarding Control M to your general continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline, it's available now, because Control M has the facility to be controlled through an automation API. Control M has the facility not only through its interface to have the jobs or the workload being defined, but also through IDEs, the integrated development environments. Okay, so what I'm trying to explain over here, that not only does it take care of the orchestration aspect, but now in the recent years with the recent, releases of the new features, of the new versions of Control M. It is right up there for each and every persona in your organization to consume Control M. If a business line user requires in marketing department requires a certain report to be generated on ad hoc basis by supplying some data, he can, without sending an email or without opening a ticket or without connecting to an IT person, he can basically log on to the intuitive Control M web interface or the mobile app and primarily run that service and get the results on his email. Okay. Or you can integrate Control M with the service desk, define that process. Someone in the business line raises a ticket, automatically Control M detects that ticket and then runs that process and produces the report. So what I'm trying to say is we are now gone away from what it was perceived as, because it's a very important aspect to address. Control M is not a scheduler anymore. Control M is an innovative orchestration platform, having the ability to talk to all the new application stacks out there on all types of infrastructure platforms. If you have any questions, please do drop them. With this, drop them in the chat. Simon, do we have questions before I go through a customer testimony? Simon, can you hear me?
Nothing in the chat as yet, Juan.
Okay.
No questions as yet, but any questions that come up.
All right, perfect. So Colruyt Group is in Belgium, a big retailer, 220 plus locations just in Belgium. You can see a huge number of revenue over there in billions. It uses Control M not for all the end of day services that we spoke about, but also within the supply chain, in the integration of voice picking systems, file transfers, and also I think the most recent, let's say, use case they have onboarded is the activity when a till has to do a refund where it requires a certain persona on the floor, a floor manager, to come in and basically log in with his own key to the till. Now the till person on that particular POS can basically pick up the mobile device, raise a ticket, and that gets detected by Control M and it resets automatically in the background. Of course, the approval mechanism is there, but it does not require a physical presence of the floor manager to walk all across. I mean, if you see these retailers, they have almost like 30 to 50 counters, right? There are big warehouses and people are buying things, and it's not easy physically to visit each till by the floor manager in the right time. And again, if you look at it, if that process gets done early, the happier the customer. Like for example, I've personally experienced this in IKEA, that if sometimes there is a wrong piece that has been given, or let's say I'm putting in the trolley and I tell them, no, I don't want this, they require the floor manager to come to basically do something with the till and then remove that. And if it takes time, automatically the customer becomes disgruntled, right? Automatically it says that what kind of a system is this? So they have worked on that as well. And in the background, it's Control M, which is facilitating all of these operations. So let me just play over here the testimony. Also, we have many others. After this session, we will drop all the PDFs for your perusal so that you can go through them. Second, please.
It also works. Simplification is very important for us. First, we have to bring in. My name is Peter van Bellingen. I'm Director of Business Processes and Systems for the Colruyt Group in Belgium. We are responsible for the IT, but also for optimization of business processes
At Colruyt, we work very efficient. We are very productive. Also, work simplification is very important for us.
First, we have to bring in operational excellence. The systems, they have to run. Without the system, there is no business.
The main objective is to have satisfied customers. And to have satisfied customers, we have to move a lot of volume, a lot of goods to the shops in time and in good conditions. One of the challenges is to follow growth, because the company is growing in a fast rate, and logistics has to follow. We can't be left behind, or we can't leave the business behind.
A big part of the services we deliver are batch services. All batch services that we deliver in Colruyt Group are delivered by Control M, because Control M is the standard in our reference architecture to work with. The ease of Control M is that it's very easy to integrate a new technology into the same batch environment.
One of the things that has improved over the years is clearly the planning of transport.
The trucks from the suppliers are coming, and then it goes to our order picker, and then the order picker picks out the correct crates of vegetables. And we know from every article, we know the volume, and we know the weight, and so we can arrange the trucks as optimized as possible.
We aim to have full trucks, and thanks to all the software developments that we made, thanks to Control M, we can say that today our trucks are filled up till 95%. Another thing that we developed thanks to Control M and the software running on it was the introduction of our voice picking system. And the main advantage of voice picking is the reduction of the number of order picking errors.
From Colruyt, we say that we have the lowest price, so we have to save money on other places to give the lowest price to the people.
Given the fact that our lorries are optimally filled, for instance, our transport costs are optimally reduced.
Because everything is automated and everything is on land, there is no human error, and everything goes very smooth, very fast, and everything is delivered just in time. For me, the Control M environment is like the heart of a human body. It delivers oxygen to all the vital organs. From the moment that you are stuck for more than 3 minutes, you are in trouble. Fortunately, we don't have such kind of problems. That's also a very positive thing of Control M. That's one of the most stable products I know.
BMC today is one of our most important partners when it comes to our mainframe solutions or software, and also cross-platform.
We have a great relation with BMC. It's a company that listens to the customer and really listen, because they also do something with what they hear. I'm very happy about support. For me, it's the best support team there is.
Really bringing added value towards our operational excellence, and it helps our business to be able to do what they have to do. Is being ready for the customer, is having the necessary support and necessary toolings at the right time, and their BMC is a big help for us today, and I hope also in the future.
All right. So, other than Colruyt.
Hello, my name is Marek, and in this short...
Sorry about that. So we have Coop as well, another retailer in Switzerland. As you see, Control M is executing roughly 150,000 jobs each day. They are on SAP, okay, so you can understand that not just one instance, but 107 instances of SAP are being taken care. They even have the SAP POS. So of course, I mean, having just SAP and still requiring Control M, you can see that there's a testimony that even with having just SAP, running your whole ERP and having the POS as well still requires a lot of those back-end operations to be orchestrated. And even the inbuilt, scheduler from SAP sometimes is incomplete and inefficient to produce the right results. We will forward these slide decks, and I will also forward some testimonies as a PDF, such as for Kmart, a 20 years old Control M customer utilizing Control M for merchandising on mainframe. Also doing some international trade onliners because Kmart is not just in US, not just in Australia, but New Zealand as well. Data warehousing is on Exadata, a relatively latest database technology. They're using Redshift, and again, all the operations on Redshift are being orchestrated by Control M because at the end, as I said, the orchestration piece revolves from one place to another, from one platform to another, and Control M is the key to bring eliminate the gap, cross that chasm, and bring the results to the right place at the right time. And with that, from my side, thank you for joining. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to type them in. The email addresses are there. Our local team, which is Blue Turtle, can be in touch with you to take the conversation further. If you'd like to have a one-on-one session, we are more than happy to conduct that. Simon, over to you.
Man, thanks very much, and thank you everyone for attending. We did record this, so we will be posting that on the channels. And please, if you have any other colleagues that would be interested, please send it to them. And thank you very much for your time. We will also be sending, I believe, and Simone, you can correct me on this, we will be sending a short survey just to check, if this was relevant and any ideas you have for next sessions and that kind of thing. So thank you very much for attending, and Humayun, thank you very much for your time, and we will speak soon. Thanks all. Oh yes, I've just had confirmation the survey will be sent, so please look out for that, and please, your feedback is important so we can make sure the events are relevant and we're giving the right kind of content. Appreciate you all joining. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Humayun. Bye-bye.
Bye.